The summer is always a downtime for games, less releases, more real-life activities that people are taking part in, and because of that, I like to take a look back at some other games we've covered over the years. Delta Force, a game that we covered a decent bit leading up to its launch in the middle of the COD and Battlefield drought of the last few years, has carved an interesting niche for its overall gameplay offerings. Obviously, coming with that classic campaign of Black Hawk Down, a multiplayer experience, and an extraction mode that we've come back to a few times since launch, given its ease of access and depth for something that's all free to play. Season 10 launched a little bit ago, and while planning to check in on the game, the Delta Force team actually reached out to sponsor a little showcase here to let you know what you may have missed since our last discussion. Today we're taking a look at Season 10 and what that brings to the fold, but let me know your thoughts down below, drop a like if you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe for more FPS content. I'd love to have in the community, but for now, let's get into what's new with Season 10. So first things first, one of the big focal points here for this season is a new operations map, AZ3. This map is a brand new experience set in a nuclear power plant that has the looming inspiration of a nuclear disaster zone. This map is rather large, it features plenty of cover, but also has plenty of open areas that can prove dangerous for squads looking to lay a trap. This very much so is a player-driven map where there's a ton of influence that you as a player can have on not only how you interact with the map, but also how others can interact with the map. A clean getaway or a reactor meltdown is entirely dependent on the player and their choice of action. You have new systems in this map like radiation systems, other dynamic world events, and a new boss even. So the radiation systems, you'll come into contact with contaminated areas that will cause a radiation notification to be present, and staying too long can lead to visual distortions, health reductions, and additional hurdles to just simply staying alive beyond any Havoc enemy or any other operators you may come in contact with that may not be too friendly. Decontamination sites and drones will help sterilize you as a player, but there's a few more hot zone dangers to be aware of other than just that increasingly rare loot that we've seen on other maps. There are dynamic world events within this map which will feature environmental play, which is actually pretty cool, where the player can trigger environmental changes, influence reactor stability based upon workable mini-tasks, alter the flow of the match overall, and create opportunities and risks for you and other players. Again, the whole meltdown thing is actually quite something to be conscious of when you go into this map in particular. The H-1000 boss is a powerhouse and can absolutely sneak up on you if you're not careful. That happened to me and Immortal when we were playing a little earlier in an early capture session where out of nowhere there was not only just one of these bosses, but a couple of them spawned in the reactor we were checking out and taking a look at, and they did some damage. So you want to keep your head on a swivel and keep an eye out for that, but some decent loot can drop from those as well. Now, that's the operations update here, AZ3 as a brand new map. But again, as we mentioned, that's only one chunk of the game itself, and so therefore a new season is going to bring along more than just what we see with one operation map. For multiplayer or the warfare side of things here, we end up having a new warfare map of Colosseum being introduced. This is on rotation in whatever mode you decide to play in it, so it is going to be, of course, a little bit of luck of the draw. As of the time of recording this, not entirely sure if when published this will have a dedicated playlist, which is possible, but this is a larger scale combat map that scales as you make your way through it. And depending on what mode you play and where you get in on this map, you'll see what I mean by this. Like, some areas have a lot more open space, others are a bit more tightly compact corridors that, again, depending on the game mode you play, like me, I played attack and defend here. The attackers got boxed in with some pretty wild long lines of sight that resulted in a gnarly spawn trap. So if you don't have necessarily the best team either for or against you, it could create some imbalance, but it's a new map entering into the fold for all of what we see in the warfare side of things here, now having a decent chunk of maps that you can choose from and play out. Another big focal point of this season was the new operator of N2, a new operator in the engineer category that comes along with the cryo flask, homing stun grenade, frost launcher, and then two split abilities for operations and warfare. The cryo flask will deploy a cryo flask that releases, creating a localized low temp zone. Enemies inside continuously accumulate cryogenic effects and suffer violent coughs, and it can also freeze and seal closed doors. So not only can it do damage to the players that are affected to this, it also does have a sort of tactical advantage to it as well, being something that could be beneficial in, say, operations. If some squad is pushing you and you need to get a little bit of distance between you two, you can end up freezing off one of those entry points for where they may be pushing from. Definitely cool. The homing stun grenade will throw a tracking-enabled stun grenade that automatically pursues targets, disrupting enemy vision and movement, and enemies affected by the cryogenic attacks will then be marked on impact. The Frost Launcher is a bit more lethal here in that sense of an entry to the arsenal, where you can equip this for a short duration and fire up to 6 cryo grenades. Each grenade detonates on impact, dealing damage and applying low temp side effects, as what we saw with the other abilities here, but the continuous rate of fire will increase that rate of fire as time progresses if you hold down that trigger. Now again, the split abilities here are the Frostbite for operation and the Permafrost for warfare. Frostbite will have liquid nitrogen exposure, gradually slowing enemies until they're frozen, but in operations, it will reduce enemy resistance to fractures, while in warfare, it will reduce vehicle maneuverability. So the liquid nitrogen exposure, again, is the same thing, but it just depends on what game mode you're playing to see the full effects of that and what is affected by that. Now, what would an update be for multiplayer games if not for new weapons? We end up having the RM277 and the SVCH. The RM277 is a bullpup rifle. It has a bit slower of a fire rate, but can pack an absolute punch if you land your shots. And the SVCH marksman rifle is a one-shot at range while also being semi-auto, so that can be incredibly deadly, and in the right hands, could be a problem perhaps. We have new cosmetics. There's a new AKM Mandelbrick skin, along with the umbrella of other rewards you can end up getting through there. Of course, those being things you can collect through the game, testing your luck on certain spins for each of those Mandelbrick collections. But the AKM skin actually looks pretty cool, I think, personally speaking. They have new Rainbow Six skin crossovers, new Black Ice skins, which look phenomenal, I think. Definitely going to want to grab those. But a pretty healthy update for a new season here when it comes to Delta Force. Again, offering a little bit of everything in this update for everybody. A brand new map and a new experience to share with you and your squad mates in the operations side of things. You have a new map, new weapons, new operator in the warfare side of things. That operator and weapons, even, again, coming over into the operations and the extraction side of things as well, that it's a little bit of everything there at this point. Now, that's the update, but let's talk about the current state of Delta Force at the moment. It's in a unique position, I think, because right now we're kind of, again, like we mentioned, in this sort of gaming lull, right? Like, we don't have any major releases happening right now. We have seasons of content for certain games coming and going, but one thing in particular that I'm, as an Extraction fan as of late, been really looking forward to is like DMZ for Call of Duty, but that's not until October. Delta Force, again, in a unique position. I said it since the open beta release in late 2024 that Delta Force, despite utilizing some hero-based elements, was a phenomenal entry point into the Extraction genre. Not quite as hardcore as Tarkov and some of the other games you'll see out there, but not paywalled like other offerings that you'd see for, say, like Arc Raiders, Marathon, or the upcoming DMZ experience, while also offering more depth than the, at the time, existing DMZ experience that we had from Modern Warfare 2 and the Warzone free-to-play element of that. I still think that Delta Force's Extraction mode in particular is a phenomenal first step for those interested in the genre, but don't want to feel like they're just jumping into the deep end when it comes to complexity. There's this middle ground that it offers more to do in terms of in-world events, looting, a marketplace, trading and such, but not so much that you need to be a combat expert or anything if you're looking to pick it up. With various maps to experience the game on, it's built out that if you're jumping in now, you can get acclimated to that genre in particular with a large offering of content for maps, features, and things like that, that when we've talked about it in the past, it wouldn't have been as large an offering at that time. Not to mention, free to play for a multiplayer and then Black Hawk Down as well, a phenomenal campaign, by the way. It's not a bad offering and not a bad time, again, if you're trying to fill some space in your summer here with a new experience, not a bad time to check that out. But that said, that's where we're going to wrap it up. Just want to fill you guys in here on a little bit of what's been going on with another game we've covered here in the past, in Delta Force. But let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of this new season for Delta Force? Like the sound of it? Not so much? Let me know. But if you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things FPS content. We're starting to gear back up for the busy season as we near the latter half of summer going into fall. That I'd love to have you in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.